Alright guys, it's Chatterbox Reviews, coming to you guys with a list of my top 10 TV episodes of 2022. Alright, so as the year comes to a close, I want to put together a few of these year-end videos. So in the past years, I've done top 10 episodes, top 5 TV shows is usually what I do, top 5 or top 10. And then I usually do a performances video as well. So highlighting some of my most memorable performances, typically from scenes, but it could just be, you know, a particular actor in a specific, you know, show that was, you know, really stood out to me. But I decided I'm going to change that one to my most anticipated shows for next year, just because I find myself looking ahead to next year and there's just so much to look forward to. And because of that, I really wanted to put a video together, like a specific one to kind of tackle that, and hopefully also get, you know, other people interested in some of the shows I'm looking forward to, and especially on the channel that I'll probably be covering as well in the new year. So anyways, those are the 3 videos that you can expect here on the channel, but this one will be my episodes of the year video. So I have 10 episodes I want to highlight, along with a few honorable mentions that I'll get to first. But yeah, so I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on what you thought of TV this year, just in general, on any of these videos. Really, you can share that. Yeah, I guess, what were some of your favorite episodes? Did any stand out to you? I know in the landscape now, you know, with TV, it's especially with binging shows like the ones on Netflix, it's so difficult to remember specific episodes of a show like Stranger Things when it's really designed to be consumed in, you know, 2 to 3 episode batches, or even the whole season at a time, right, for some people. So if any of them do stick out to you, though, please let me know. Leave those in the comments. Love to discuss these episodes and these shows with you, and all that stuff. And of course, these are only from the shows that I've seen this year, so you know, a few big ones are probably missing from this list. A couple of big ones I would say is probably Andor, Severance. Those couple ones, Rings of Power, I didn't see, but yeah, some of those bigger ones, those are probably the big absences that people will notice, but nonetheless, just from the shows I watch. So if you enjoyed the video, please like and consider subscribing to the channel as well. Would really appreciate that. But with all that being said, with all that out of the way, now let's get into some of my honorable mentions for my top 10 episodes of the year. Alright, so the first honorable mention then, and these are in no particular order, although I will let you know on my number 11, which was just outside of the top 10. But anyways, the rest of these, no particular order. So the first one I want to highlight here is The Walking Dead, Season 11, Episode 24, Rest in Peace. So this is the series finale of The Walking Dead, and if you've been watching this channel for any length of time, yeah, you know, Walking Dead is probably my second or third favorite show of all time. One of the only shows that I think I've rewatched almost all the way through again. So yeah, huge fan of Walking Dead. I really wanted to highlight this episode and just kind of give a chance to, you know, really highlight the end of this kind of era, or the end of this, you know, time of the series. Especially, we had 16 episodes in the year of 2022. While this episode doesn't necessarily compare, I don't think, to the other 13 episodes I'm going to, you know, highlight and cover, just as an episode in itself, it's more about what this one represents. Though, having said that, I do think this was a really good finale. It even exceeded my expectations, I think. And again, I don't want to spoil too much, but if, you know, if you weren't following at all, I think it's in a really emotional ending, especially for one of these characters that we've been with for a long time. Really liked the way they handled that. It was a good conclusion as well to the story that they had been building, though I think that story obviously could have been a lot better in this season. It felt very rushed towards the end of the season. But yeah, just all things considered, everything in this episode, I thought they did the best, you know, that they could have done with what they were kind of given leading up to it. I think Greg Nicotero did a great job directing this episode. And of course, again, don't want to spoil too much, but the return of Andrew Lincoln as Rick at the end, as well as another character, Denai Greer as Michonne, coming back at the end of this one was just amazing to see. And that was the one thing that I needed to see in this series finale. Didn't matter what else happened. I just needed to see that, and we got that. And it was a great way they did that too. Great sequence, and as well kind of building up to now the spin-offs that are coming starting next year. We should have 3 new spin-offs for The Walking Dead. So cautiously optimistic on a couple of them. Very much looking forward to the spinoff with Andrew Lincoln and Janai Guerrera. The next honorable mention then is going to be Dark Winds Season 1 Episode 1 titled Monster Slayer. So this is the only episode, I believe, of Dark Winds on this list or in this video, though I will be talking more about it in my top 5 TV shows of the year for sure. But I thought this episode was a good one to highlight. It really was a great introduction into this world and this kind of feel and tone of this series that was really great. It's kind of a detective crime thriller, I guess you could call it. It's based off these novels with, I guess, the 2 main characters are Joe Leoporn and Jim Chi, the 2 detectives. I think it's called Leoporn and Chi, the novel series. But anyways, so I thought it was just a great way to adapt this, and I actually kind of felt similar to the way that I feel about Justified, in that I feel like the writers did a great job of kind of capturing, you know, what the feel and kind of the tone of, you know, of course, of Elmore Leonard, you know, his writings and that for Justified. But here, capturing these writings and really kind of putting their own spin on things and kind of making it more interesting, I guess, to an audience member, especially in terms of a screen adaptation, right? But still staying true to kind of that tone. And I felt like it felt really original, really unique. And this episode was just a great way in introducing that. Even some of the horror aspects as well in this season 1 here. And yeah, so again, I'll talk more about the season as a whole probably in my top 5 TV shows video. But yeah, just for this one, I thought it was a great introductory episode. A great episode as well for introducing Zahn McClarnon as our main character, Joe Leoporn. Great to see him getting a lead role in this. Just awesome. And he's great in this first episode too. So yeah, definitely wanted to highlight that one from Dark Winds. Had to have at least one episode from that season 1 on here, but unfortunately it doesn't crack my top 10. All right, so next then is What We Do in the Shadows, season 4, episode 5, titled Private School. This one to me was either the second best, you know, probably the second best. In terms of just pure comedy though, maybe the best for this season of What We Do in the Shadows. Overall, I wasn't blown away by this season of What We Do in the Shadows. I thought it was a bit of a step down from what we're used to with the show. However, this episode and another episode I'll talk about in a little bit in my top 10, just were amazing. I mean, you get at least 2 of these episodes, I would say, every single season from Shadows, that are just easily like the best episodes of comedies for the year. This one's such a low concept episode, even especially for, you know, Shadows, which they do play with some pretty high concepts sometimes. But this one is literally just about getting, you know, baby Colin admitted into this private school, and just the kind of craziness, the chaos that ensues by having this, you know, admissions, you know, advisor or counselor come in, and they're trying to talk to them, and you know, he's interviewing, you know, them as parents for baby Colin and all the rest of it. So, just a hilarious concept, and I do think there was a lot of improv as well here. You know, I do want to give credit to the writers of this one for sure. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, just a lot of improv, a lot of great performances in this one that really brought it all together. And again, really funny. Some of the most laughs I've had from any, you know, TV episode this year for sure in this one. Then our number 11, so this is probably the only one that I would give, you know, an order to. This one just missed out, and it is Hacks, Season 2, Episode 2, titled Quid Pro Quo. And this is the only Hacks episode as well on this video. There were really a couple great ones, but I thought this one really stood out to me. Wherein, you know, Episode 1, I thought, okay, we're kind of retreading some stuff here with Deborah, especially with her daughter and kind of that family stuff going on, on Deborah's side at least of things. But episode 2, I think, really finds its footing and really gets back to that dynamic duo of Ava and Deborah, with Gene Smart and Hannah Einbinder doing such a great job. And then some of my favorite parts of this episode and the season as a whole was kind of giving Jimmy, played by Paul W. Downs, one of the creators of the show, of course, giving him a little bit more of an expanded role in this season. And I thought this episode was really great. He has this whole thing, where he has dinner with a colleague, and just kind of everything goes wrong for him in this episode. He's really down, and then you get, of course, his assistant coming in and some great comedy playing between them two. So yeah, I just thought this one just felt like a real complete episode where they really found their footing, and I love the way this one ended and kind of setting up the rest of the season, where we get, don't want to spoil too much, but, Deborah's basically suing Ava at the end of this one, and then they kind of play that plot line out throughout the season, and it's really, really funny as it goes on, and it just kind of starts in this episode. So anyways, with all that being said, I thought this was probably the best episode of Hacks, although the finale is really great too, and I think it could have served as a really, really great series finale, so I'm not exactly sure where they're going to go with season 3, but anyways, I'll talk more about the season as a whole in my next video with top 5 TV shows. You'll definitely see this one on there as well. Okay, so with all that being said, now let's actually get into the countdown. Let's get into my number 10. Alright, so at number 10 here, I have the first of 2 episodes from House of the Dragon. So we have House of the Dragon, Season 1, Episode 8, The Lord of the Tides. So if you actually take a look at Greg and I, so he's my friend who came along for the review series for House of the Dragon for Season 1. We took a look at almost every episode and did a review for them. And then we also did a ranked video. So we ranked all the episodes. And this one, to me, was my number 2 on that ranking. So my number 2 and number 1, you'll find here on this top 10 for the year. So, yeah, I thought this episode, again, just kind of repeating my thoughts that I probably expanded a little bit more on in that video. So if you're interested, definitely check that one out. But yeah, I just thought this was a really great episode, a really great introduction to kind of this new era of these characters again. Specifically, Aemond, I thought was really great in this episode. It was also kind of the calm before the storm that we all know is kind of coming, or that was inevitable really at this point. But it's, Viserys is still trying to quell kind of all of the chaos and all of the kind of stuff that's brewing under the surface here that hasn't quite come up yet, but towards the end of this episode, of course, with Viserys' death, which is, a big one too, because obviously this is his last episode, which that, and all the parts with him in it were great in this one, and so that kind of comes all to the surface in these next couple episodes, but I feel like this one just does such a great job in setting that up, and also the tension they build at the end of this episode. It's about a 10-15 minute sequence, I want to say, of a dinner scene, and it is just an excellent scene, really well directed, and really well written all the way around. So really great episode there for House of the Dragon, and like I said, to me, probably the second best of the season there. Alright, so number 9 then on the list is going to be Resident Alien, Season 2, Episode 1, Old Friends. This premiere for Season 2 it blew me away, honestly. I laughed out loud like, several times throughout this episode, and where we left off with Season 1, I thought, okay, some of these episodes are really funny, some of these episodes have a lot of potential, and then some of the other episodes were like, okay, okay, this is okay. I just thought, this season of Resident Alien had so much potential to really become one of those prestige comedies on TV, definitely one of the most unique comedies as well, with the blend of all these different genres in it. And this premiere was like, wow, maybe we have reached that potential. And this one's a lot of comedy. There's not a lot of kind of the drama stuff that I'm not a huge fan of in the show. That's kind of left at the door here for this episode. I also feel like it's a really great way in kind of explaining the finale of Season 1. We had to get Harry, our main character, back to Earth, the alien that was now going to his home planet. we got to convince him, or we got to have a reason for him now to come back to Earth. And I thought they did a great job in explaining that to kind of, bring us to this premiere now. And we know, obviously, we have a whole nother season here, so he's got to be on Earth with this other group of characters. And so they kind of, bring that full circle, did a great job of explaining that, and then just hilarious sequences throughout this episode, basically just catching up on, where these characters have been in a little time that we missed in between seasons, were great. They have a really great montage for a couple characters that's just so funny. So yeah, really great writing here for Chris Sheridan. He did great. Robert Duncan McNeil, who's one of the main directors of this one, fantastic direction in this episode as well. So yeah, really great premiere. Now, with all that being said, I don't think it really all came together this season for As an Alien. Unfortunately, I do think that this was the best episode of season 2. So I guess it kind of peaked early in that sense, but don't get me wrong, there's still a lot of great episodes in season 2 after this, but just I don't think any of them reach the same level that this one is. Anyways, so yeah, really great start there for As an Alien season 2. All right, so next then at number 8, we have one of 2 of these episodes as well. We have The Righteous Gemstones Season 2, Episode 2, titled After I Leave, Savage Wolves Will Come. So great titles here for Gemstones from Danny McBride and crew. This one where, again, I felt like the premiere had kind of similar thing to Hacks, actually, for this one. But the premiere for Gemstones, I was a little, it was really kind of heavy on the story and it wasn't actually that funny. I felt the comedy wasn't as strong. And this one, I feel like Danny McBride and crew knew that. And especially as well, because HBO aired episode 1 and 2 in the same night. And so I think that really worked well, because maybe you won't laugh as much in episode 1, but you'll really learn a lot, and it sets up a lot of good, material that comes later in the season. Very important stuff. But episode 2 is where most of the laughs are, and just an amazing sequence. One of the best sequences of the year occurs about halfway through this episode, I would say, or maybe in kind of the last third of the episode. It's only a 30-minute episode, right? So it's not that long, but just an amazing sequence where they go to this house and they find, a dead body, and then they're trying to get out and they keep slipping on the blood and they're trying to run out, and it's just, it's just ramps everything up to 10, maybe to, 11, and just really sets the stage. Okay, we're in a Danny McBride comedy. Here we go. And, kind of just strap in for the ride that is coming. And it was quite a ride for season 2. So, yeah, one of my favorite shows of the year, for sure, right? For sure. You'll see that in my top 5 TV shows video for sure. And yeah, one of the best episodes I thought of the season. Really kind of, again, set the bar for what was going to happen next. And like I said, that one sequence, the physical comedy, the absurdity that Dan McBride is so good at, on full display in this episode. Just fantastic stuff. Really great there. All right. So number 7 then is our second House of the Dragon. So this one is House of the Dragon Season 1, Episode 4, titled King of the Narrow Sea. So this one, again, when we did that ranking video, this was my number 1 in that ranking video. So this one really stood out to me. I thought this was the strongest kind of tonal episode, and the way that they handled that. I thought Claire Kilner did a great job directing this episode. And I believe Ira Parker, was the writer of it. Just a really great episode, especially for Damon, I thought, and kind of taking his character on quite an arc just within this one episode, where at the very beginning, he's, kind of making amends with his brother, Viserys, the king, and coming back to King's Landing, and then towards the end of the episode, being disgraced, his brother never wants to see him again. So it's this great arc that they take this character on, and I thought they do a great job, of course, with the whole Rhaenyra and Daemon, the whole way that plays out. Again, that could have been really mishandled and could have not landed quite right. But they did a really great job. Amelia Alcock is so great in this episode. it really is kind of a focus on her and obviously her kind of foray into love and, basically, exploring what actually she wants to explore and not just what her dad and everyone else around her is telling her, to find this husband that she has no idea who they are. She doesn't, she's barely even met them. But instead, she chooses Kristen Cole, who she does know and has a really great relationship with. So, anyways, just a really, kind of steamy episode as well in that sense. But I just thought great handling of the tone. And this episode, I mean, obviously it's set in a high fantasy, world. That's the nature of the show. But I feel like the writing and directing here really transcended that to the point where, okay, like this feels like prestige drama TV, and it just felt like it was on another level. So really liked King of the Narrow Sea episode 4 there. Yeah, it's my favorite of the season. So thought, yeah, okay. Number 7 seems like a good spot on this list for sure. All right. So number 6, this is the first of 3. That's right, there's 3 episodes from this show in my top 6, for good reason, of course. So number 6 is Better Call Saul, Season 6, Episode 12, Waterworks. This one is directed and written by Vince Gilligan. Need I say any more, right? This was Vince Gilligan's first time writing an episode for Better Call Saul, I believe since the season 3 premiere. So this one I was highly anticipating. And I knew, just to see Vince Gilligan write something, again, he hadn't written, well, technically so it hadn't been since El Camino, since he had wrote something, but again, since season 3 of Saul. And his writing was on full display again in this episode. The comedy, there's some great comedic moments. His ability to handle tension as well in some of these sequences. And this episode is really dedicated to Kim and Rhea Seehorn's character, Kim Wexler, and kind of catching up with where she's been and kind of, finally joining these stories of Kim and Jimmy, or Gene at this point, right, in this, kind of time skip ahead to the after Breaking Bad time. And yeah, just a fantastic way of handling that. And yeah, the direction, just fantastic stuff. Again, the tension building in these scenes with Gene, and he's in this house trying to get out of the house, and the police are waiting outside, and it's just a really great episode in that way. And of course, the ending is fantastic too. Just a amazing tension in that scene, and just a really great job, of course, by Bob Odenkirk and of course Carol Burnett as well in that scene. So just a crazy, way to end this episode off. And then, of course, hands the reins over to Peter Gould, for that finale, which you won't see on this list, but it was very close. It was, obviously one of the best of the year as well. Yeah. So, yeah. Vince Gilligan, he does it again. He's at number 6, and yes, you will see him again as this list goes on, but we'll get to it there. All right, so number 5 then on the list, so now we're in the top 5. So number 5 is going to be What We Do in the Shadows, Season 4, Episode 8, Go Flip Yourself. This, to me, was the most ambitious episode that any TV show that I watched, at least, did, or produced this year. Just the whole concept of this episode, and then the execution of it too. So the concept of, basically they did this the whole season, setting up to this episode of, Laszlo, one of the characters in the show, is watching this, it's basically a spoof on Property Brothers, right? It's this reality construction kind of show, right? Of house renovating and that kind of thing. And so, he's watching this reality show in some of the episodes leading up. And then this episode basically plays like an episode of this reality show that they made up for Shadows and already kind of depicted it in the show earlier. Anyways, it's a little confusing, but just it's so meta in that way. And then they also got the Sklar brothers to come in and basically play the Property Brothers in this episode. Just so great. So great. So that's the concept. Great idea. But then the execution as well from the director Yana Gorskaya, who does some of the greatest What We Do in the Shadows episodes as long as the series has been going on. The execution here and the commitment to really go for it. They even put text overlays on the screen. They film it like a reality show would, with commercial breaks, and they line up kind of these reactions to things, and then, oh, find out after the break, and these kind of things. So just the commitment and the ability to kind of say, okay, we're making a comedy about these vampires and everything, but let's just commit all the way to this reality show and make it like this. And I know for some people, I've actually read that some people did not like this episode, and I feel like that's just kind of the nature of it. If you're not down for it, you're not going to like it that much. But if you're in and you're hooked in it, you're going to love it. And that was me. That's where I came out on this. So to me, this was the best episode of Season 4 of Shadows. And again, the most ambitious episode of the year. It deserved a spot in my top 5 for sure. Alright, so next then at number 4 on the list is going to be Barry, Season 3, Episode 2, Limonada. So, I feel like I could have put more than one Barry episode on this list. Kind of feel bad that I didn't actually now in hindsight, but I feel like that's also the reason why this is so high, because this really does represent a lot of great episodes from this season of Barry. And again, you will see me talk about this one on my Top 5 TV Shows video for sure. Alright, so this episode 2, and I'm noticing a trend too, there's a lot of episode 2s on this list, but anyways, this one, again, I felt like was maybe the most funny, the best comedy of any episode of Barry. I did feel like this season definitely was a step down from season 1 and 2 as well. But the comedy captured in this episode, especially the sequence towards the end where Barry is chasing down Gene, Bill Hader's chasing down Henry Winkler's character, and it's just this such great directing and just the style that, Bill Hader and Alec Berg, both of them employ with the series of Barry. Just this absurdity and just the crazy kind of wacky sequences they have. And they have about 3 or 4 of them in this season, but this to me was my favorite. Just so funny. He's, going through people's backyards, and these dogs are attacking him. And of course, this all starts because he's trapped in his trunk, and he, opens the trunk to say hi to him and then closes it again throughout the episode. It's just a fantastic episode in that, and just kind of the absurdist comedy, that kind of style. And again, I feel like the directing is really strong here as well, in that whole sequence, and really knowing, how to play it, the editing too, kind of editing these sequences together. Of course, Henry Winkler's commitment as well, in those scenes, because they did not look like they would be fun to film, and all that. So yeah, just a really great episode, I thought. And then of course, setting up a lot of the stuff that was coming up later in the season, with Cristobal's character, Anthony Kerrigan's NoHo Hank, and that kind of relationship as well that's starting. And then, of course, we see Fuchs as well and see where he is in this episode. So, yeah, just felt like, all the things kind of came together. That one sequence in particular really stood out to me. Definitely one of my favorites of the year. So I had to put, episode 2 on here. I will give just a shout out. I know this is kind of cheating, but I will give a shout out as well to episode 5, which was, I think, Crazy Time Shit Show was the title. That one was also very close to making this list. Definitely, close to episode 2 in terms of, my favorite episodes of season 3. Really great comedy in that as well. And again, another great sequence towards the end of that one, though it's a little bit shorter as well. So, all right. So that's Barry at number 4 then. So number 3, we're in the top 3 now, and we have Better Call Saul, season 6, episode 7, Plan and Execution. So this was the mid-season finale. They did a kind of a weird split here with Better Call Saul season 6, where they had, the first 7 episodes, and then the 6th that aired after about a month or 2 later, which, ultimately it was pretty much just for Emmys, so they could, contend for 2 Emmy, ceremonies in a row. But I felt like this mid-season finale just had everything. I mean, the clever writing that has been seen in Better Call Saul since the very first episode, Uno, by Peter Gold and Vince Gilligan, of course, the pilot, if you will. Though, of course, it was already ordered to season 1, but also probably many seasons after that. But regardless, the clever writing is just at full display here in this episode. Thomas Schnauz does such a great job in bringing this whole kind of plan, really, I guess it is a plan, or the scheme that Jimmy and Kim have been doing the entire season 6 and these previous 6 episodes leading up to this point, and tying such a good conclusion together with all these separate plot points that they've set out and just kind of left there, and you're thinking, oh, why did they show that? Or like, why does that matter? It always matters. It always comes together. And that's the brilliance here of these writers that have been there for Better Call Saul and, of course, Breaking Bad. Some of the crossover there, especially though with Peter Gould, of course, Thomas Schnauz, of course, one of the main writers of Breaking Bad through its run. And he does a fantastic job on this episode. And then, of course, you want to talk about that huge ending. What an amazing ending to this episode. I wouldn't even call it a cliffhanger, though, either. And that's something I really liked about it, because it is a crazy, insane ending that you really didn't see coming. But it's also not a cliffhanger, because they really do kind of complete it all. I'm not going to spoil it anything, but there is a big character death in literally the last seconds of this episode, to where, it's not a cliffhanger because they're dead now for sure, but it's this, what is going to happen next? It's the aftermath that you really are dying to see after seeing the last seconds of this episode. And I'll get to that aftermath in a couple of slots here with my number one, but don't want to spoil too much. But anyways, just a fantastic mid-season finale here. And again, capturing all of the stuff that has been there since the beginning of Breaking Bad and Saul. Just this brilliant writing, and also the acting in this episode I thought was great with Bob Odenkirk and Rhea Seehorn especially. And of course, Patrick Fabian as Howard. Just fantastic job all the way around. And yeah, just a great way to kind of tie things up there for that first half, which, looking back on it, really is kind of this self-contained half, because things really do kind of conclude in this episode up to then about the final seconds, and then that kind of sets things in motion for the second half, if you will, or at least the first few episodes of the second half. All right, so number 2 then, my second favorite or second best episode of the year is The Righteous Gemstone, Season 2, Episode 9, I Will Tell of All Your Deeds. This was the finale for Season 2. This episode, I think, is even better than Episode 8, which was basically the de facto finale for Season 1. Though I think Season 1 as a season is better. This finale was just amazing. Again, you want to talk about the absurdist comedy, the physical comedy that I mentioned with Episode 2, it's here in spades in Episode 2, even better. I mean, the way that they wrapped everything up, and to be honest, going into this episode, I think I said this in my review. I did review the season, if you want to go check that video out earlier in the year. And I think I said this in the video, but I was actually a little worried going into this finale because I thought they had a lot of stuff to tie up, and they only got about 30 minutes. I think this finale ended up being about 40 minutes, but they only had about 30 minutes here to tie things up and give us a good conclusion. And they didn't waste any time of this finale. Like, it is just jam-packed with this kind of bringing everything full circle, especially with Eric Andre's character, really bringing that character who was just kind of sprinkled in throughout the season. And then, of course, bringing this big twist in this finale. And the way that his character meets his demise in the end of this one. Again, don't want to get into too heavy of spoilers, but what an amazing fucking sequence in this finale, I gotta say it. It's just fantastic. Unlike anything I saw on TV this year, it's Danny McBride at his best, with this blend of comedy, action, horror, this absurdity element in there, of course. Just fantastic stuff. I think some of the best work that's come from, McBride and crew, really, over, Eastbound and Down, Vice Principals, and now this show. I think this episode is probably the peak. I think it's the top of anything they've done before. Just an amazing job here, and easily one of my best episodes of the year for sure. All right, so now we get to it. My number 1 episode of the year is Better Call Saul, Season 6, Episode 8, Point and Shoot. So, I will also be putting together my award show, as always, for the year-end awards here. And you'll probably see this one in conversation for directing for a drama series. And that is Vince Gilligan directing this one, written by Gordon Smith, who I think deserves way more credit than he gets. He has consistently written some of the best episodes of Better Call Saul throughout its run. Even dating back to season 1, where he wrote probably the best episode of that season, was titled 5-0. It specifically focusing on Mike and his backstory. Just a fantastic episode. And I did rewatch, Better Call Saul all the way through before season 6, so that's why I'm a little more up to date with that episode. But anyways, a fantastic way to address the aftermath of what happened in season 6, episode 7, Plan and Execution, with the death of this major character and the things that transpire after that, with Lalo coming in and forcing Kim to basically go kill Gus. Of course, there's more to the plan, kind of under the surface, but at a very literal sense, that's what is happening. He is forcing Kim to go kill Gus, and the acting here from Rhea Seehorn's on another level. Bob Odenkirk's great as well, and again, just some brilliant writing here, and blending all of this stuff that we've had, building up with Lalo, and we see him in Germany, and we're kind of trying to piece things together. And again, this episode just brings everything full circle with that whole plot line, and really Lalo as a character throughout the entire series up to this point. And then, of course, we get the final showdown between Lalo and Gus, the two kind of heavy hitters. And I believe that Peter Gould and Vince Gilligan as well have said it's Lalo, Gus, and Walter that are the three kind of geniuses or masterminds throughout this universe. And so, yeah, we see two of the masterminds come head to head in this final sequence, this final showdown. And the way that they end it is just brilliant in this small little detail that they put in there in a few episodes before. I can't remember the specific episode, but I want to say episode 3 or 4 of the underground lab. They have they have Gus place this gun there, and you're thinking, okay, that's kind of weird. It's just a little kind of throwaway scene, and of course it plays such a big part in this final showdown sequence. Wow, just fantastic acting here from Tony Dalton as Lalo and Giancarlo Esposito as Gus. I thought this was maybe Giancarlo Esposito's best episode in terms of acting that he'd done over Breaking Bad and Saul. I thought this was just amazing. Spotlight on him, especially again towards the end of this episode. Yeah. What a great resolution. And then the ending of the episode, just some great visuals as well with the kind of grave that they're digging. And then the beginning as well, you want to talk about the visuals with the blood splatter on the wall and just some of these panning shots that Vince does. Just fantastic stuff. One of the best opening sequences as well when you see the car on the beach. Yeah. Just, I could go on forever about this. The directing here, the writing, all top notch. And I think this was the best episode of Saul for this season. Just an absolutely fantastic episode. Yeah, that's why it's my number 1 for top 10 episodes of the year. So anyways, that'll just about do it then for this list and for this video. Like I said off the top, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on now my list. Once, now that you've heard it, have you watched some of these shows? Have you seen some of these episodes? Do you agree or disagree with me? It doesn't matter. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. And then, of course, what were your episodes or shows that really stood out to you this year? Love to discuss that with you guys, as always. But yeah, so that'll just about do it. Again, like I said as well off the top, stay tuned for my top 5 TV shows of the year video that'll be coming. And then as well, my most anticipated shows of 2023, which I'm really looking forward to putting together that video. And I'm really hoping that, some people will discover or, maybe kind of look into some shows that I'm also looking forward to and really kind of generate some buzz for these shows coming up. So anyways, with all that being said, thank you guys so much for watching this one, and we'll see you then in my next video.